La 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 la. Screen peeking. Bop bop bop.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 46 of Screen Peeking, a monthly podcast where my cousin Ziggy and I get together to talk about video games and anything video game related. Um, it is our October episode in November because we are a little bit behind schedule, but we will be having another episode at the end of this month for our November episode. And until then, we have so much to talk about, Zig. There's been lots of game news, of course, heading into the holiday season. Lots going on, things to look forward to. But what have you been playing this last month, and what kind of has stuck out to you?
Yeah, I played more games than I will talk about today. I basically went on actually two pretty big binges of just playing a bunch of 10 or 15 minute games, a lot of which were fairly unremarkable. That's not even worth throwing out the names. I don't even remember half of them. But ones that stuck out to me, one of them was called Type to Continue, which is a typing horror game that I believe is free on itch.io. It's kind of what it sounds like. Basically, you're walking through a hall, and you can look behind you. But you're just walking forward, and then when you reach a door, you have to type out the name on that door. It starts like that, and then you start hearing something spooky behind you, and basically there's something sort of chasing after you as you're going down here, and you can look behind you, and it'll make it stay still for a little bit. But so as you're going, you're basically just trying to get as far as you can. It's got a bunch of weird quirks to it, but it has a really, really good sound design. So it's really tense, hearing this behind you as you can feel it getting closer, and then being right next to you and shit. But the tension of typing in the game is really cool, where it when you pass a door, it forces you to stop and type. So as you're running away, you're trying to as fast as you can, your fingers slips and you fuck up. You're trying to get frantically, and then going forward it's, I don't know, it's really tense, but it's a pretty cool concept. I mean, it's barely you just do it and then you die and then you do it again. But yeah. Very cool sort of experiment, I thought. I played Before Your Eyes, which is a game I've heard a little bit about a bunch. It's kind of a movie. It's about the price of a new movie ticket. So I think it's $15, kind of an expensive movie ticket. And it's 2 hours long, so you just kind of sit down and play through it. But basically you're looking at the memories of the person you're playing as, and it uses the webcam to tell when you blink, and that's kind of how you interact with the game. So you might move the mouse to look at something, and then you blink to interact with it. But then as you're watching the memory, eventually an icon shows, and basically the next time you blink, it goes to the next scene. Which is cool because the dialogue doesn't stop for that. It keeps playing. So you may be trying to hear a conversation or see something, the camera's kind of zooming in on something, you want to see what it is. So you're holding your eyes open, trying to not blink so you can hear the rest of it. But I don't know, it has some cool themes of impermanence and stuff like that. But aside from that kind of gimmick, it was just a really, really, really beautiful little story. This game, probably one of the better stories I've played this year. It kind of came out of nowhere. I just sat down to play a game that I thought looked kind of neat from a mechanical perspective, and I was probably crying half the time I was playing this game. It's something about it just stuck a real personal nerve with me. I don't know, but it hits hard. So if you're looking for a good game or kind of a good movie to sit through, definitely it's a pretty high recommendation from me.
That's great.
So Broken Reality, I talked about this game before. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I had never actually finished it. I've gotten pretty close a bunch of times, but I have a curse with that game where every time I'm getting close to finishing it, I end up getting a new computer. Not really a curse, but for whatever reason, I always play the game at the end of a computer's lifespan. For me, which means I get the new computer and then I lose that save file because that save isn't in the cloud for Steam. So then I have to start over, and I'm fine. So I basically played through the first 3 quarters of that game 3 or 4 times. And with this computer, I hadn't played through it yet. I've had this one for a while. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Like, if I get stuck on something, I'm just gonna look up a guide. Like, I've tried so many times to beat this game, and every time I failed. Like, this is the one, and I finally did it. I finally got through, which felt pretty amazing. The ending's fine. You know, it didn't like. It wasn't necessarily worth my like 5-year journey of reaching the ending in that game, but it is what it is. I played another weird small game, Critters for Sale. I don't really know how to describe it. It's kind of like a point and click adventure game mixed with like a Death
great.
Grips fan fiction. And I say that in a very literal sense. Like MC Ride is a character in this game, as well as a few other musicians. It's fucking weird. I don't know how to describe it. You can look at it. I don't even know if I'd recommend it, but I thought it was weird enough. It's worth looking at the Steam page. And then I played Quake, which is a game I've never played before, like the remaster that just came out. Quake, pretty good. Holds up pretty damn well. Then I played Hrot, because I was in a Quake kind of mood. Not a very old game, but still pretty good. And then the big one I started playing this a few days ago, Voice of Cards, The Isle Dragon Roars, I think is the full name, which is a terrible name, but whatever. But Yoko Taro's new game, also pretty good so far. I feel like I'm not deep enough to like really get to the meat of it, but I mean the gameplay is fun enough. The story is very basic so far, but I feel like most of his games start out pretty basic and then end up getting real fucking weird at around like the halfway mark. So yeah, I'm enjoying enough so far, but I'm definitely excited for. I'm already kind of starting to see the seeds of the weirdness slipping in there, and I'm excited for it to go full weird on me.
I'm excited for those weird seeds to sprout.
Oh yeah, I think that's about it though. What about you?
Not as big of a list for sure, but I've I guess a little plug for a second. On my Twitch channel, I've been playing through all the Dark Souls games, or I'm on my journey through all the Dark Souls games and Bloodborne and Sekiro, as we look forward to Elden Ring coming out. And so I finished Dark Souls 1. Don't remember when that was, but it's been since the last episode. That was fun, and I started Dark Souls 2. I've only kind of done one big, long, like 6-hour stream of that, and then, but I hope to get back to that this week. So yeah, Dark Souls 1 and 2, it's surprising how fun Dark Souls 2 is. I forgot, and I haven't played it since, I want to say like shortly after it came out in 2014. So it's been a while since I've actually played that game, and it actually plays really, really good if you like Souls games, obviously. But like when it came out, a lot of people didn't like it compared to Dark Souls 1, and it's probably the one that people talk about the least or hate on the most. And it is probably the most difficult of all of them. It adds a lot of interesting little hidden stats and things that you don't know about, except for people who have like gone through the files of the games. They've like, know, okay, if you upgrade this thing, this does this, and like if you do that thing, you'll now have more invincibility frames. So if you want to have the same amount of frames of invincibility as Dark Souls 1, you want to get this stat to this thing, and you're like, oh man, that's a lot to really like pay attention to. But you don't have to, and it is a much more difficult Dark Souls. So looking forward to getting through that one though, and then getting through 3 and so on and so forth. If these rumors, they've been rumors forever, but if there is a PS5 or Bloodborne remaster announced before I get to Bloodborne, I'm not playing that before Elden Ring. I'll play it whenever that remaster comes out. Just saying that now. So those have been fun, and then more on my own time, I picked up Dishonored: Death of the Outsider, because that is kind of like the best comparison I have for it is like a Miles Morales to the Amazing Spider-Man on PS4. So it's kind of like it's a full game, but it is a smaller scale compared to like the original full experience. But I think it's actually better than Dishonored 2. So that's the other one that I've played. So there's just 4 games on this list. Dark Souls 1, 2, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, and then Dishonored 2 is what I played over the last month. And I 100% both of them with all the achievements. Dishonored 2 has some really stupid achievements, man. Like, they're like, why did you put this in there? One of them that I'll put out as an example is you have to listen to this musical duo. They're playing musical instruments, and they're like singing and whatnot, and apparently you're supposed to listen to them do a full song. Even if you read the achievement description, you have to find them in 3 spots throughout the game. If you rob a black market, which is just fun to do because then you get money and you get items and you like steal from this person you just bought upgrades from, and it's always a puzzle how to get into the back of that black market shop and steal from them. So you want to do it, and you can do it in almost every level. And if you rob the black market more than twice, then these musical people do not show up the 3rd time for the achievement, and you don't know, it doesn't tell you this in the achievement. And like you're playing through, like this game takes a while. Like it's I think 9 missions total, and I think the 3rd time you see the duo is maybe on mission 7 or something like that. You're not. So I remember so when I had to do this, I had to go all the way back to the beginning. I thought I was gonna have to do all 3 again. Luckily it does keep track, and you can do them in whatever order you want. You just have to listen to a song from all 3 of them at some point. Anyways, that was just like one of those bullshit, what the fuck am I doing here kind of achievements. And then and it was the last one. I had 49 out of 50, and I was like, I normally I would just ignore that if there's a bunch still to get, but this was like, I was playing through the game and I was like, what can I get while I'm doing this? And ended up being one that I just wanted to complete. But Dishonored Death of the Outsider, every single achievement is very realistic to obtain, or even reload a save and like go get it and do whatever, and there's not that many, and it is just a blast to play. I want to go on a bit of a rant here for either one, Dishonored 2 or Death of the Outsider. These games have just like, ever since Deathloop, just pulled me in even more. I loved these games before, or I loved Dishonored 2 before Deathloop. I even played through all of the first Dishonored way back on my 360, and I enjoyed that game. But I think I've been pulled in a lot more by just the way the levels are designed, and I've talked about that before on our show here many times about how much I like the level design of Dishonored, and just the way it makes you think about different approaches for any encounter in any environment. I'm going to actually switch us over to some gameplay in the background just for a while I am talking. Basically, this game, it's Dishonored 2, you can upgrade all kinds of different things at a black market. You can upgrade your gun, your crossbow, your stealth. So if you want to be like more sneaky when just standing and walking, or if you want to be more sneaky while sprinting, you can upgrade that capacity for holding more bolts for your crossbow or your gun. You can hold more grenades, or these spring razors, which are pretty badass. You imagine a bunch of barbed wire all tangled up into a little mine, and if someone walks by, it just lets loose and just dismembers them. And you can do all kinds of cool things. And then there's of course a stun mine, so there's the non-lethal version. And in Dishonored 2, you can be stealthy or not. You can be aggressive. But even being aggressive, you can choose to be non-lethal or lethal. And so it's really cool. They have so many ways and different abilities to incapacitate enemies, whether you're just murdering them or you can just knock them all out. You can be very aggressive, but not kill people. When you do a parry, it knocks them off balance, and the enemy's off balance. And then you can either do a right trigger attack to kill them, or you can do right bumper, or whatever the alternate option is to actually just like punch them in the throat and then choke hold them until they not get knocked out. But if you do that in the middle of a fight, one of their buddies might shoot their friend by accident while you're choking them out. I find the combat is a lot better. So I'm saying Dishonored 2 because that is improved a ton versus Dishonored 1, where it's very much forcing you to be stealthy. I also really like traversal because this game gives you multiple powers. Death of the Outsider gives you less, and I think that's better because they just give you 3 abilities. I don't have a recording of Death of the Outsider, so I'm just going to be showing Dishonored in the background here. But like the ability to teleport, in Death of the Outsider, they give you 3 abilities. One is like a teleport, but you place a marker, use the ability again, and you'll teleport to that marker. And the second ability you have is a way to kind of become this like spiritual version of yourself, leave your body, float around, fly through the sky. So let's say there's a big gate in front of you that's like a bunch of metal bars, and you want to get on the other side, but you can't jump over it, and your teleport thing can't go high enough to get over it. So then you can go into your spirit form, fly over to the other side, and while in spirit form, you can actually place a marker for your teleport, and you can place it on the other side, and then use it to teleport through the gate to the other side. And there's a lot of situations like that where maybe normal situation you wouldn't be able to figure out how to get further, but you kind of think outside the box. You go, wait a sec, I could just not be detected. I can fly myself forward because it pauses time too when you do that. and you fly yourself forward, and you have a certain period of time you can be in your astral form. And you fly over, put your marker down, and with certain passive upgrades, which they call bone charms in this game, you can equip a bone charm that lets you put down a second marker. So then it's like leapfrog. You place down 2 markers close enough to each other, and then you don't even have to be looking the right direction. You just pull the left trigger or whatever button you use for your ability twice, and suddenly you go hop from one thing to the next, and then you're in the spot you want to be. And it's like really cool, and maybe it's behind a person. Or in this clip here, maybe you connect 3 people together with Domino, which is in Deathloop. It's an ability that they use in Deathloop, but it was here first and killed multiple people at once. A clip coming up, I used possession on this human coming up here because he's about to detect me, and I possess his ass and decide what I'm trying to do is get up to his boss. Which is up on the next floor. And there's so many ways. You could be stealthy and just like climb up the elevator shaft, or you can possess a rat and go through some vents, or I'm possessing this dude and I'm walking through. The other guards don't know anything's fishy going on. And I'm about to use this other ability. I don't remember what it's called, but you become this like crawling shadow creature, and you can kill people while you're in that form or not, but I kill them, and because it's super cool and just lifts them in the air and rips them apart. And and it's just like you're way less noticeable when you do that. And so like the way to like mix abilities together. So here I knock this guy out instead of ripping him apart, just so I can carry him to another faction in this level. So they will give me the codes or the information to pass through the main mission's door. And it's like you can choose which side you want to help out with in this mission. I don't know, I'm going on a rant, I know that's okay. I'm just trying to share that like there's a lot in this game that kind of gives you the option to do many different things, and I love the ability to play through this game multiple times in so many different ways. And I don't know, do I have any questions from the audience? No. Just
Yeah, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, the way you pitch that definitely makes it pretty appealing to me, I think. I like the idea of kind of just like a more condensed Dishonored. My question is, like, story-wise, would it make any sense to me, or would I be pretty lost?
I think it does. I think it does storytelling in a very similar way to Dishonored 2. And I think the story is actually told in such a way that sometimes you can watch a series of movies or something out of order, and then when you see the first thing, you go, "Oh, that's cool! I'm connecting the dots now. I have this information that I might have not had when I first saw the first movie or whatever." This is a kind of like story like that, where like you have the information before you play Dishonored 2. It will actually add to your experience in Dishonored 2. Whereas if you just played Dishonored 2 and then you play Death of the Outsider, it adds to that experience still. And I think that's really cool, and you don't always get that. I forgot to mention that, Death of the Outsider, it's 4 missions, whereas Dishonored 2 is 9. And each mission could easily be an hour or longer, depending on whether you want to find all the bone charms. Like, do you want to find the upgrades? Because you don't know what they are. You just see there's a bone charm this far away from you in this area, and then it's up to you to figure out how to get in that room or how to find out like where it is and how to get to it. And then once you collect it, it'll tell you what the bonus is. And that's different for every playthrough too. So those aren't like static, the same kind of upgrades. So you might get one that lets you do a double jump, or in that same spot on your next playthrough, it could be one that lets you regenerate mana while underwater. So like it's really cool because it makes you think on your feet all the time and try things different ways every time you play the game. And I can't say that enough, because that was one of the things I loved about BioShock, which is like right up there with like one of my favorite games, right? So I really, really love the option to play a game and play through a level and then talk to someone else and ask them what they did and find that they did something totally different. I think there's so much value in that, and I think that's so much fun to hear. So here you can see I'm carrying that guy, that one like overseer leader, to the other dude who I need to get information from one of them, and then it's like you choose which person you want to side with, and that can have outcomes later in the game. And they do a pretty good job of having multiple outcomes and the way things can progress. So huge fan of that. And I guess I'll kind of tie into, like, while I was talking about all that, the reason I wanted to talk about Dishonored so much is I've been looking at this at Wolf Eye Studios, which was founded by one of the co-founders of Arcane, who, of course, make Dishonored and Prey and Deathloop and all that stuff. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but one of the co-founders, him and one of their producers, or I can't remember the role now too. Maybe it's a director or something like that. Anyways, two of them went and they co-founded Wolf Eye Studios, and Weird West is coming out in January 11th. Did I write that down? Yes. And I am fucking stoked. I cannot wait because this guy, the co-founder dude, I gotta look up his name. He's been a big part of Dishonored 2, and he wasn't a part of Deathloop, and I felt like Deathloop was missing something. I'm not sure if that's why, but I think that's an interesting observation that I'm really hoping that this game ends up being really, really fantastic. I hope it is very successful for all of them. And I don't know what I'm gonna find here. I know I can't say his name. Rafael Colantonio and Julian Robbie. Those are I think the two folks that started up Wolf Eye Studio, and that I'm super excited for. So that's a game that I'm really looking forward to. It's the total like immersive sim subgenre, and I've been talking way too much. So Ziggy, please.
Weird West is kind of cool. It seems almost more like a Fallout, like 1 or 2 style immersive sim, which I think is cool because I feel those kinds of games are cool. I played Fallout 1. I didn't actually like Fallout 1, but I was very intrigued by the bits that I played of Fallout 1. Like, it wasn't fun to me in any way, partly just because it's just old. It's really, really old.
Yeah,
and has
it is.
Like milk. But the ideas it has are awesome, and I wish more modern games actually did that. And I feel like that's kind of starting to happen again. Like, Weird West is one. Another game I really want to play, Death Trash, that came out kind of recently. Same
Death Trash.
Same sort of vibes I'm getting. Awesome name for a game, by the way. So
I
do
think
you want to go into... Or sorry, what are you going to say?
I was just going to say that's true. Like, games are starting to be made more like that. And I'm wondering if that's because you do hear a lot of developers like splitting off from these bigger companies. Like, before it was like the dream to work for these bigger companies, and now it's kind of the dream to be branching off and making your own studio. And I know the guys that split off of Arcane, it made like a part of that reason was because it felt like the games being made, or like to be making the next games, perhaps they were talking about Deathloop at the time, is like it becomes too formulaic, and like you have to be following this. You need to have all these ingredients to make it successful. And so I'm hoping that really does carry over to this Weird West game. I think you play, as they were saying, like 5 different characters, and there's like multiple like storylines here, and all the characters have different like strengths and weaknesses, and I think they said like around 40 hours of gameplay or something, which maybe 1 or 2 playthroughs could be really fun, and then you just like come back to it a year later and do a couple other ones. That could be still really, really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's move on.
Let's talk about Back 4 Blood. Yeah.
Let's talk about Back 4 Blood.
So, that's our
Go for it.
Game Club Game of the Week. I played not as much as I was
Month.
hoping to for this episode, but I think I played through the first like act. So far, I am really disappointed, to be honest. So I guess for a bit of context, on Vertical Slice, the other podcast I do, we just did an episode on Left 4 Dead 2, which should be up pretty soon here, like within the next week, I'd imagine. And so I played the shit out of Left 4 Dead 2 pre Back 4 Blood release, and did a whole lot of analyzing why the game works, like really dug into it, and I fucking adore Left 4 Dead 2. Like, that game rocks. And so coming to Back 4 Blood, like, that's awesome. Like, I love Left 4 Dead 2, but there really is a lot of ways it could be modernized. And it seemed pre-release like Back 4 Blood was kind of doing that. Like, their whole card system seemed really cool because it adds replayability. Like, you have different builds as you're playing through, almost like a roguelite. That's awesome. Like, I think Left 4 Dead could totally use something like that in its formula. But upon release, playing it now, it seems like, and granted, I haven't played that much, so kind of take what I say with the grain of salt.
Approximately how long?
I've probably played like an hour. And granted, a lot of that hour is trying to figure out how the game works, which I'll get into in a bit because that's like my biggest gripe with it. But it feels like what I said, where there's like Left 4 Dead 2 really, really stands the test of time. Like the game hardly feels like it's aged. There's just a few things I think it could use to make it feel more modern. It's like they they clearly know that, but it seems like they've, instead of just tweaking a few things, they've just puked every single modern shooter trope into this game, and then was just kind of assuming it would work well, and it just really, really, really doesn't. Like, big thing like tiered weapons, like having a weapon that's blue instead of green and has better numbers attached to it, works in a looter shooter like Destiny because you're going to be keeping that weapon for a long time. But in a game like this, it just doesn't belong. It makes no sense. Like when I'm going through these quick runs and I'm playing with my friends and stuff and we're laughing and having a good time, I really fucking don't want to be sifting through guns and be like, this one has 11 attack instead of 9, but this is lower, and like comparing and, you know, fucking around with like attachments and stuff like that, which it does have attachments. And those things, like, I get it, because attachments especially, I get what their thinking was, because for replayability, which is what these games are all about, it's cool. Like, you can come through and you can build your guns in different ways each time, but I think it just really, really takes away from the core experience. And then there's, I mean, nitpickier things too, like, why does this game have a sprinting mechanic? It really has a sprinting, and more importantly, a stamina mechanic. It just feels like shit, to be totally honest. Like, especially coming from Left 4 Dead 2, where it doesn't have that. It's just so simplified. There's no ADS, there's no sprinting. It's just, you're just going, and, you know, you're picking up ammo from drops and stuff like that. But in this, they seem to just add in sprinting and ADS with no real reason other than, I don't know, other shooters have it. And ADS too, when you're shooting at hordes of zombies, the last thing I want to do is severely restrict my vision so that I can actually, like, shoot where I'm aiming at, you know? Like,
with the quantity of zombies in that game, with the amount that they have in that game, it's just like you can't like actually use aiming down sights. Like, it's not useful in any way.
No, but you have to, because there's so much recoil. There's like CSGO levels of recoil if you're not, which it's just so not fun. And that's also, like, fuck, man, the UX design in this game is legitimately some of the worst I've seen in a long time. Like,
it's not great.
I capital H hate when games give you, like, don't let you join, or when they use like a sort of hub area like they have in here to get into missions or customize your weapons and stuff like that, when it could just be a menu, and it would be so much easier to just sift through a menu and do that than walk from point A to point B, and then you run out of stamina when you're trying to sprint somewhere, so you have to slow down and start like slowly walking to them because there's a stamina mechanic for some fucking reason. And every time you click on something, like, a minute-long video pops up explaining how it works instead of just like a half-decent fucking tutorial. It's so annoying. Like, we were laughing. The videos was really set me over the edge. We're like, my friends and I were, when we were playing this game, we're just like cracking up eventually, because literally every time you click on something in that first hour, a video pops up explaining how it works. Like, a long video pops up. It's ridiculous. And it sucks because the core act of, like, shooting zombies in this game is really, really good. Like, actually just shooting your guns and killing zombies is awesome. Like, there's really satisfying, like, audio design and stuff like that. But basically everything else surrounding that is, like, mediocre to legitimately bad. And that just sucks. And it's really surprising to me because this game got quite good reviews. Like, I was hearing a lot of positivity around it, and I was like, oh, awesome, that's super exciting. And man, I just do not feel the same, and I'm really sad about that.
Yeah, I found the difficulty was actually, like, extremely high. Like, I found it very, very difficult to play this game compared to what I was expecting, especially on what I considered was the regular difficulty, like normal difficulty going into it, and the amount of special zombies that they throw out, and you have like no options to get out of it unless you have the card or you're playing as that one character that can actually break free, which I played as, like, exclusively, because I'm like, man, I get grabbed all the time. I'd like to be able to break free once every minute, and that, like, saved my life so much. But I played about 3 or 4 hours of this game, and even though you can get more cards and you can do more things, it seems like it's restrictive still by like you can only choose one card out of your deck, and then the next round you can do another card, and the next round you can add another one of your cards. So regardless, it's still pretty challenging right at the first, like in the first mission. And if you're not like able to communicate with your team, which obviously I was playing with a bunch of people online that I wasn't talking to, it's kind of like, I don't know. Maybe I'm terrible at it, but I found it actually very, very challenging. And I've played a lot of challenging stuff in my life.
Yeah, it is difficult. I would say compared to Left 4 Dead 2, it's about the same from what I played, with the exception of that like final like big epic set piece level in each act. At least from the first act I played, that was significantly harder than the final levels in Left 4 Dead 2. But I like challenging these games because I think it adds to the ability to play them for like a long time, because getting that feeling of mastery I think is pretty satisfying.
Well, I don't think it's balanced. That's the main thing. So, like I don't know if this is true, but what I heard is that apparently in Left 4 Dead 2, like the special zombies are in specific locations throughout a mission or a level, like that you know where they are going to be more or less, like where they will be spawning and that kind of thing. I might be totally wrong on that, but that's what I was hearing.
I don't actually think that. I'm pretty sure the spawn locations for zombies is decided by the director in Left 4 Dead, so it's different a lot of the time, I think.
Those like is it like witches, or like those ones that like scream, like you can reliably know where they're going to be when you replay a level? I'm pretty sure witches I think are usually in about the same spot, witches and tanks, but those are like like close half
to
of
boss
them
level enemies.
But anyways, I know with this one's like they will just keep throwing them at you, like you stand there for a second, like they don't stop coming, and it is just like eventually if you have 4 of them and they all do their one hit kill, technically, because they grab you, if they grab everybody, then it's like it's over. And I'm like, there's got to be more ways to get out of that, and I don't feel like that is as much of a you should have positioned yourself better or anything, because it's sometimes you're just waiting for a thing to fill up, a bar to fill up, or you're just waiting to get through this thing to happen, and you only have so much distance you can run, and when there's enough of those guys, there's no way to avoid getting grabbed, because it's kind of like they just home in on you. And I think that at that point, that's where I get frustrated, not so much man, they do a lot of damage or anything. It's like they have a one-hit kill, and if they do it on all 3 or 4 of you, then you're done. So
yeah, that's funny, because I said they over-modernized things, but like that aspect of Left 4 Dead 2, like the way that they can kind of grab you, and if someone doesn't get there, you're just kind of fucked. I thought that was really frustrating, and one of the things I was kind of hoping they would find a way to tweak. And it is one of the few things they were like, you know what? No, that's good. Let's keep it. That's Left 4 Dead, man. Which is really frustrating to me, because they added in a bunch of shit and then kept the stuff that didn't really work in the original. The other big thing I want to touch on is the card system, because I feel like that's the most significant sort of addition here. Like I said before, I get it. Like, I get what they're going for, and I really like what they're going for. I just don't think, like, deck building is it. And that's mostly just because this isn't really a game that you play solo. And if you're playing with friends, your friends are going to fucking hate you if you spend, like, 10 minutes building a deck, And so, at least from what I played, I just I never felt any real want to go and mess around with building a deck, so I just used the basic starter deck, which isn't very good. And I keep seeing videos on my YouTube feed like, oh, super overpowered melee builds, stuff like that, that are, and I like want to engage with that, but to do that, I would basically have to log in exclusively for a session of building decks, which it's not why I want to play this game. Like Left 4 Dead 2, why I love it is you can just call a friend and say, hey, you want to play Left 4 Dead? They're like, yeah, sure. And then you're in. Like immediately you're in, you're playing. You don't have to fiddle with anything. All the progression is just within that one session. And that's a really key thing. Like all your progression is just in that session. And that's not the case here, where you're doing shit like deck building outside of it and unlocking character stuff. And another thing, I mean, I think this is just me griping about modern video games in general, but like Left 4 Dead 2, Like let's talk about skins and cosmetics, because I've grown very numb to that. But playing through Left 4 Dead 2 and not having any like paid skins or cosmetics, but having mods. And so the ability to have literally whatever skin in the world you want. Like I played through a lot of my time Left 4 Dead 2 as like me and all my friends is just random fucking anime girls, and all the zombies were Fall Guys, like with the sounds and everything, which was amazing, especially the Fall Guys. That was great.
I was hoping you were going to talk about the mods.
Awesome. Yeah, and we do talk about that on the podcast, by the way. That's like one of the more fun sections. But and here, being used to that, like having all these super fun character skin stuff, looking around having Pepsi Man be coach or something like that.
Yeah. And
then going from that into this like very sort of cynical cosmetic system that they have here, it's just like, oh man, like this is the bit we had to modernize, and that was just kind of sad to me. But yeah,
I think
I'm pretty
weird.
low in this game. I'm required to keep playing it because we're also doing an episode on this for the podcast, so I will play all the way through it. I'm not excited to do that, but I'll be
don't
doing
hit me
it,
up.
So I won't.
Yeah, if I could just talk about the mods for a quick second, I wanted to like bring back a memory I have. Like I remember playing against, like, I don't care about when you're playing a first person shooter game. I don't care about my skins. I want cool things that, like, I actually don't care about gun skins either. I care about stuff that like you can see looking around, whether it's like people's footsteps are on fire, or you know, things like that are just kind of fun. Or like, even if that would be something I'd like on myself, like, oh, look at me looking down and running in a circle. But like the mods and being able to change the zombies and what they look like, or the special zombies, that was so cool. Because I remember like you were saying with the Fall Guys, like I remember facing off against all the bloody Teletubbies. Those were all the basic zombies, and it was terrifying. And then like the big brute one was Donkey Kong, and then you'd have like, I think the smoker one was like Yoshi with his tongue or whatever, and something like that. And awesome. But I definitely know the first two were real. I'm not sure if that was actually a thing. But yeah, like those are the mods I remember growing up with, and I think that was so much fun, and I have so many good memories of Left 4 Dead 2. So I did have a lot of hope going into this game, and I even had two people that I had set up, and I had asked, like, are we going to play this game? Yeah, we're totally going to play this. I jumped on by myself for the 3 hours just to get things figured out, and I was like, yeah, this just isn't hitting for me. I need to play something else, and so I went and found Dishonored and jumped back into that, and then totally fell in love with it again. It's a bit of a disappointment, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame to see the franchise Dishonored like that. On a more positive note, though,
Right.
So I was playing Back 4 Blood with Owen and a few other people, and we were all pretty low on it. And like the next day, he texted me like, "Yo, Ziggy, I like found the perfect thing. It's Left 4 Dead, but it's more modern, and it's actually pretty good." And so we started playing World War Z, which is a game I heard
I played
pretty
that
much
one.
nothing about. That is fun. That is actually really fun. I definitely wouldn't say it's nearly as good as Left 4 Dead 2, but in terms of if you want just like a more modern sort of like 4-player co-op zombie experience, like that game is quite good. For me, like I just prefer the first-person perspective for that kind of thing. There's like a few things. I thought World War Z
didn't they add that now?
More like,
I think World War Z added a first-person mode.
Oh, did they?
Just recently, I think.
I should look into that. That sounds.
It's
cool.
either a mode, like a separate mode, or it's like added into the game. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, but that's cool. So if you're looking for that kind of experience, and it's on Game Pass, I think. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So check that one out. That's pretty good.
I agree. That one is a lot of fun. One thing I want to say that's positive for Back 4 Blood, I played it on PC, and it is very well optimized. It ran very, very nicely on my computer, and I don't have the most powerful computer in the world. It ran great. I loved it. It took advantage of DLSS and a bunch of cool features that I just really enjoyed using, and got the good frame rate, and everything just ran nicely. I really liked that. So I want to say that because there are a lot of games I'll boot up and it just runs crappy. So they have that going for them. Oh.
Yeah, it's good.
Let's
we should probably go into favorite games of all time, just because I don't have like a ton of time left.
That's true. Yeah. I just want to touch on like Elden Ring delayed till February 25th because everyone should know by now I am super excited for that game. That month delay is fine. Let's hope that it stays as a month, and that's all I want to say on that. We'll move on.
We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, there is an online technical test thing in November. I signed up for it with both of my emails, so I'm hoping I get in there and can stream that at some point.
One of the two.
I just got
awesome.
Well, Zig, let's talk about our top 50 favorite games of all time. I think we're on number 15, if I'm not mistaken. I think I updated that, but I have to pull open my document. So, don't look at my shared screen. I don't want you to spoil this. I saw you look over. What are you doing? 15. That seems right.
All right. I can start with mine while I'm getting that set up.
Okay, sure.
So my number 15 is Playdead's Inside.
Nice.
One of the best horror games ever made. Inside fucking rules. It is a masterclass in video game pacing, I think, where it's pretty short, but just like not a single moment of that game is unnecessary. It has a fucking awesome ending. Which, weird side note, one of my most desired video game collectibles is Real Doll, which is a company that makes sex dolls, made a Inside collectible thing. I won't say what it is for spoiler reasons, but if you've played the ending of that game, you can probably guess what it is. And it is fleshy and disgusting, and ew. I really want it. It's so cool. Yeah, Inside's fucking awesome. If you haven't played it, I don't really know what you're doing. I think it's on Game Pass? Question mark?
Ooh, I don't know.
I feel like it is. I feel like I remember it being on there. Maybe I'm full of shit.
No, I think you're right. I think it is.
Yeah, and I have kind of a special connection with Inside too, because I spent like probably 6 months out of my life working on solving the ARG around that game, which was a really cool time, and I met some pretty cool people doing that. That was some cool shit, and we ended up getting stumped. Like, when I say I spent about 6 months of my life, because after that 6 months we hit kind of a brick wall, and I think a lot of people kind of stopped until eventually one person, by literally complete chance, was just like randomly entering codes into one of the pieces of that puzzle, and then just accidentally solved it. It's just fucking weird. But yeah, we got it with that. That was kind of a cool moment, just like seeing that Discord channel suddenly start blowing up when I hadn't really heard anything for a long time. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? It's solved? But yeah, that was cool. What's your number 15?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out if we even are on 15. That's what I was like trying to look at here, because I'm looking at whatever. I'm just pretty sure that we're on a different one, because what I wrote down on our last video, I said 50 games of all time, number 19 in the description. So I'm not sure if we're on 18 now, but
do you remember me talking about Dusk at all, or Gary's mod?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember Gary's mod specifically, but okay. Perfect. Well, then my number 15 is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door for GameCube. Actually, I wanted to quickly say on Inside, in relation to you saying Inside, that's one of the few games that Taylor has started and finished and completely beaten on her own. And I just think that is that's a kudos to that game, and like how it is very interesting. Give it a shot, start it up, and it is. I just think it's a very easy to digest game, but it also very interesting. You don't necessarily understand everything at first glance, but I think it's a really cool game. And yeah, I just wanted to agree with you on that. I think that's awesome, and it's not on my top 50 for some reason, and I think that's a mistake. So I just want to let everybody know that I am not tweaking my list right now, but I think it should be in there somewhere, as I totally agree. That game's fantastic. But yeah, back to Thousand Year Door on the GameCube. This game is just the best Paper Mario game, period. I don't care what anyone else has to say. They're wrong if they disagree. This game is amazing. The companions are fantastic. I think one of them is, I want to say Vivian, and she can like pull you down into like a shadow puddle, and you can like go underneath objects that way. And like the way they used paper is just so fun, and like not exactly the most unique thing anymore, but at the time was just incredible. You can turn Mario into a paper airplane or a paper boat to get across certain environments, and using your companions for both in battle and in the environment to figure out how to progress. The battle system is the best of all the games, in my opinion. Like the turn-based system is great, but also having like a press A to block at the right time to reduce the damage you take. So every enemy, it's worth learning their attacks, and like when you want to press A to block, and pressing A at the right time when you're attacking to do a little bit of extra damage. And then they have badges which you can equip to like increase certain stats or certain give yourself certain bonuses. And so like when you level up, you can choose to upgrade your health or your flower points, which are like your magic, or your badge points, which will allow you to hold more passive bonuses. And I think like all those things, like they don't have that in any other Paper Mario, and all of it comes together into a really, really, really fun and funny story and a great combat system. And I think the one thing I really love about playing through it every time I do is always like, okay, who's the next companion I'm going to get? Like, I can't wait to get to the next chapter of the story. As you know, part of it's going to be meeting this person that you're going to be trying to get them on your team, and then they're on your team, and then they have cool new battle mechanics. They have new moves in battle, and then how do you want to use them, and how do you want to use them outside of the battle? And I just think it's super, super fun. So that's all I'll say on that.
Awesome, yeah. Yeah, Paper Mario, I haven't played it, but it seems kind of like one of the games from an era of Nintendo that I miss, where they just kind of did weirder shit. Like, to make kind of a movie comparison, they like now they almost feel more similar to like an Illumination or something like that, which makes movies that are, good, but like I'm talking about like by and large the library. They do release definitely bangers, but even their bangers are mostly kind of what you'd expect, but like just very good versions. Like even Metroid Dread is, it's Metroid game, stuff like that. Or Mario Odyssey, where like it's a Mario game. They don't have the same sort of weirdness and like experimental stuff and like humor the way that they did in there of like that, or like Earthbound. Like fuck, can you imagine Nintendo of today releasing like, people always ask for Mother 4, but like I can't imagine Nintendo actually making a game with that sort of spirit like ever again. Just because of where they are now. They're huge. They're one of the bigger entertainment companies in the world.
I blame all the people that hated on Mario Sunshine. Flood was fantastic. Mario Sunshine's amazing. Stop hating on the weird stuff. Love the weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I miss that. I wish Nintendo would kind of lean into that. And even with stuff like Animal Crossing, where like Animal Crossing on the GameCube, you'd have villagers like shitting on you and being kind of mean to you, and now they're all just kind of like in a very kind of bland way. They're all just kind of cutesy and nice and about the same way, with varying colors that it's shaded in. But I miss the edgy Nintendo. That's what I'm trying to say. I miss when Nintendo
wasn't Nintendo ever edgy?
No, but like I
think Twilight Princess was the closest.
Anyways,
all right. What's your number 14?
My number 14 is Titanfall 2.
Ooh,
Titanfall
really?
2.
That high up there? Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I love Titanfall 2. I don't really have a ton to say about it that hasn't been said like a million times by everybody who's ever played Titanfall 2, but I mean, I'll say it again, like campaign rocks. One of the better modern shooter campaigns, I think. The multiplayer is really, really fucking cool. I'm glad that it's a modern shooter that in a lot of ways doesn't really feel like... It feels like a modern shooter, but doesn't have modern shooter tropes just for the sake of having those tropes. And I really respect it for doing that. I don't know. It's just awesome. The movement is fucking bar none. I would say Titanfall 2... Ooh, it's up there on probably the best movement like in a video game. I'm
First
looking at my
person.
list. I'm trying to think of first person and in general. To be completely honest with you, like it is really, really, really good. Um, yeah, I'm not really seeing other ones that I think are like markedly better on my list. It's fucking awesome. It's so fluid, and there's so much room just for mastery. Like when you first boot into that game, you can kind of, try to wall run around and double jump, stuff like that. But when you really get the hang of it, like swinging off a grappling hook onto a wall, onto a double jump, and then grappling it onto something again, and you just feel like you're flying the whole time you're playing that game. Like it's similar to kind of like a Spider-Man type experience where it's you
momentum.
kind of have learned how to fly and do all these things, but all those don't come from the game just letting you fly. It's you like actually learning how to fly. Like it's so skill based, and that's I think why it hits so hard for me. But yeah, Timefall 2 rocks. It's like 25 cents on sale constantly. So
I think it's on.
Is
it's
it
on Game Pass through the EA Play
EA
stuff.
Play. I forgot about that. Yeah, then just download it if you have that. Or if you don't have that, then yeah, it's always stupidly cheap. So that's a great one.
I agree with you on the movement on that game. That it's so fantastic. And honestly, I know you haven't played Infinite yet. Infinite's not as good, but it's the closest thing to that I've played actually ever. Like it with just like the being able to fly around. That grapple does work really well. Like it is pretty much a 1-for-1, almost identical to what's that robot in Apex. If you use that grapple, you know how the Infinite grapple will feel. Pretty much. I don't agree with everybody on the campaign thing though. It's so weird. I don't want to get into that, but I'm like, it's so interesting.
I mean, for me, I think I should specify it's one of the best.
I don't want to hate on you for that.
One of the best modern AAA shooter campaigns. Which not in general. I've played a lot of indie, like I think Dusk and Ultra Kill, kind of blow this game out of the water in that, just because I mean those games are another level. But yeah, the only game that I would say rivals Titanfall 2 in terms of movement is significantly higher on this list, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, I have one because you said for all games. I said first person shooter, and you're like, I think for any game. I have one at number 12 if we get to it today that I think has equally good movement, but it's a totally different genre. So my number 14, I won't talk about too long. It's just Pokemon Fire Red specifically, not Leaf Green, Fire Red, and it's the only Pokemon game I have on here, I think, and that's just. It is such a great memory going back to the first Game Boy Advance game that I had, basically. My friend Dylan was super into Pokemon. He got me into it. I remember borrowing his version of Fire Red, and of course you can only have one save file, so I got my Charizard. Didn't know how to play the game. I just played Charizard. That was it. Leveled them up a bunch, got them to like level 70 something, I remember, and was fighting the Elite Four, and I just could not beat all the Elite Four. I would get like 3 out of 4 down or something, and then my friend Dylan wanted the game back, and then erased the file, and I remember being like, oh man, but then also thinking like, I can't wait to replay that whole game again and get my own copy. So that's like it's just a really happy memory that like if I think of Pokemon, I always think of the start screen for that one, and I can't wait to play it every time. So that's my number 14. Awesome. What's your 13?
My 13 is maybe kind of a weird one. It's Life is Strange 2, which is a game that I was really surprised to hear not a lot of people liked. And I don't really know why, because I think this game, like, I quite like Life is Strange 1. I don't think it's that great of a game. I just really like it. But Life is Strange 2, I do think is actually a great video game. Like, I think it improves in Life is Strange 1 in basically every way, especially the writing. I think Life is Strange 1 is a fun story that I have some personal attachment to, but I don't think it's well written at all. I think it's pretty fucking cheesy. In a way that is kind of endearing to me, but like, God, Life is Strange 2 is good. I would say the experience of playing it now is going to be a lot better than the experience I had playing it originally, which is episode by episode, because those episodes kept on getting delayed, so they would be released like 2-3 months apart at times. which
Oh, yeah.
I think was a big downfall for that game. I think honestly that's why a lot of people weren't super hot on it, because you play an episode and be like, oh, that's awesome, I can't wait for the next one, and then you'd wait and wait and wait, and then by the time the next one came out, you just kind of weren't interested because a bunch of stuff comes out, and that's what happened to me, because I played the first few episode by episode, and then on the last couple I just kind of forgot about them. Like, I forgot they were coming out, and then at some point both of them were out, and I was like, shit, yeah, I should go back to those because I really liked the first three. And so I kind of like went back, refreshed myself, played through it, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this game's a fucking masterpiece. I think it's also in the, like, with what's kind of been going around socially, not the pandemic, but just getting everything else, it feels pretty relevant. It's got some interesting things to say, I think, and if you played the first one, I think it also ties in some really endearing ways. But yeah, worth a play if you like that kind of game, I think. But I still think it's so weird that people just didn't really like it. Like, even fans of the first game just weren't really fans.
Did people dislike it?
Kind of. I heard definitely more than a few people who were pretty hot on the first game, playing through Life is Strange 2 and be like, I mean, it's fine, but just weren't feeling it at all the same way, which is, I don't know, it's weird to me.
That is weird. Yeah, my attention span sucks for those kind of games. I've never been able to get into those, like, and like even the Telltale games and all that stuff. I just can't. It's just like, I don't like watching movies or TV shows too much. Like, it has to really pull me in, and I think it's just something like that. I was wanting to say my number 13 on here was Dishonored 2, so I put a / Death of the Outsider, and I'm not going to say anything else on it because we talked about it today, and I just wanted to say, since that's my number 13, I wanted to be like, hey, that's my number 13, and then if you want to talk about your 13, and then I know we're getting close on time here, but we could do that.
Yeah, we can do number 12.
Okay.
So
well, do you want to do your 13?
My 13
did you do
was
that?
Life is Strange 2. Yeah.
Oh, whoops, I've been highlighting too slow. Okay, yeah, what's your 12?
So my 12 is Persona 5 Royal. I mean, I actually never played the original Persona 5, but I'm going to put Royal. Persona 5, fucking real good. I've played through it twice now, which is insane because
wow,
I so rarely spend any more than 10 hours in, like, even games I really, really like. And so for me to play through a like 120-hour game literally at all, for me to finish that is fucking nuts. That should speak volumes about how good this game is. But for me to do that again should even more say how much this game just fucking rules. I think this game is like crack. If you could date crack and then take crack with you into a dungeon. Like, the story's pretty good, but it's mostly just like the characters and that gameplay is just ridiculously addicting. And the style and the music. I mean, again, people talk this game to death. I don't need to talk about it too much, but yeah, Persona 5 Royal, fucking one of the better JRPGs I've played, if not the best. No, I forgot about my favorite game of all time. One of the best.
Yeah, the style and music and everything is so cool. Such a cool game. I like it a lot. I'll never finish it. I'll probably never play it again, but I like it a lot. Completely. My number 12, which is the game I was saying I think has really fantastic movement in it, is Hollow Knight. That is my number 12 game of all time. Hollow Knight has fantastic movement. I think it plays extremely well. The ability to be able to, like, if you see some of those like challenge rooms or challenge areas where you're not supposed to touch any of the spikes and people are bouncing their sword off of spikes so they can get around ledges and do all these crazy movements. I'm not good enough for it, but the fact that you can do that just shows like it plays extremely well. That game is really high on my list because I love like the Metroid type of game, like the original Metroid games. I don't like playing them now, but I do like that type of like find collectible upgrades for your character, have different bosses in different rooms, and explore a big map that you can slowly uncover as you explore the whole Metroidvania thing. Yeah, I really like this game a lot.
Hollow Knight, I feel like I'm gonna get fucking strung up for this one. I started Hollow Knight. I just did not like it. I don't know what it was. Like, it's funny. I've heard so many people say the movement in this game is amazing. I don't know what it was. I
What?
just thought it felt
On the
really
art style
bad
too.
to me.
Oh,
I don't know what it is. I felt like I was going insane.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to. Maybe it's in like a weird fucking place at the time, and I need to go back to it. But I tried it for like probably 30 minutes to an hour, and something about the way it felt just like really put me off. I have no idea what it was. That's a weird one for me. I should try it again because I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm being unfair with it. But
I think you are.
It's weird.
I think you should just at least. Did you beat the first boss at least? Do you think? Because
I that was a while ago. I honestly couldn't tell you.
But yeah, I wouldn't say like you have to play at least an hour before you really understand or anything like that. I think it's just that I think the game's just really fun. I don't know. I think you would know once you beat a boss whether or not that's for you or not. But anyways,
I do
like
need to give it another try. Like I've accepted in my mind that it's a good game because I know literally everybody who's played it except for me like adores it. I think I might just have some kind of defect in my head around that one game specifically.
I also say I love like that. This is one of the games I think has like some of the best. Like it's all hand drawn, kind of like art, and it's just fantastic art style. And the music is one of the like those soundtracks that I just listen to over and over again. I just can't get enough. And like can't remember what it's called, but it's like something rain related. Just is like so emotional. Like if you want to start crying, I don't know, something about the instruments in there just sounds just amazing, right? Like it just triggers you. If you start thinking about something sad in your life and you hear that, you're done. You're over. It's over. I don't know. They do a great job in that game. But with all that being said, let's end today's episode because you got to get going here in like a couple minutes. So, do you have anything you want to plug before I do the whole exit of the show here?
I already plugged it before, but Left 4 Dead 2 episode of Vertical Slice should be going up very soon. And then a Back for Blood episode after that. So if you're interested in hearing us talk about either of those games, you should do that. Also, Owen is a special guest on those shows since he played both those games with us. So check that out if you're interested. But yeah, I think that's about it.
Awesome. Well, with that all being said, thank you so much for watching, everyone. We really do appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the discussion, please, subscribe to this channel or follow on Spotify or Google Podcasts. Helps us out. And if you have any opinions or comments, please leave them below. And until the next episode, which will be at the end of this month, keep peeking that screen. Bye.
Hell yeah. See ya.